Nigel Clark was Minister of Finance. When the report come to his office about the problems, he put the report in a cupboard and forget about it. Andrew Holness had money in there. And Andrew Holness take out his money before the thing collapsed.
Stocks and Securities Limited issue, the SSL matter. Golding stated, and I quote, "There was a massive fraud going on in there when Nigel Clark was the Minister of Finance," end quote. In making that statement, the PNP president appeared to pretend to ignore confirmation from local authorities and word from a confessed fraudster who is now before the courts that fraud at SSL was going on from as far back as 2012 when the PNP was in office. Golding...
What I find unfortunate as well about the entire narrative is the move by the PNP to bring the name of the iconic Usain Bolt onto the political platform in a bid to mislead Jamaica and the icon into not recalling public record, which indicate that the majority of his principal investment, 86% of it, was fleeced when they were in office and at a time when they were made aware of issues at SSL but did not take any decisive action to safeguard the Jamaican investor.
Mr. Bolt's money was sent to SSL by bank transfers. The investigations conducted by Mr. Ken Tomlinson, who was put in charge by the FSC, his records confirm that Mr. Bolt's money was sent there. The persons who are saying it was stolen, which started at a certain media house, has not presented one bit of evidence to say it was stolen on the 10th of March and the amount stolen was $5 or $6. A red herring has been thrown across the path, and the question is, what's the motive?
Hello, I'm Dudley Thompson, and welcome again to WDT Media TV. And welcome again to WDT Media TV. Well, you heard in the intro, the claims and the counterclaims, as the PNP is claiming that the SSL saga began under the JLP, and the JLP saying it began long before they took office under the PNP. Stand by for details of these claims and counterclaims. Don't touch that dial. The PNP's Mark Golding made his pronouncement on PNP's political platform.
By the Jamaican regulatory body for investments in the country. And there was a massive fraud going on in there. Nigel Clark was Minister of Finance. When the report come to his office about the problems, he put the report in a cupboard and forget about it. Andrew Holness had money in there. And Andrew Holness take out his money before the thing collapsed and leave Bolt and others to suffer the massive losses of, in his case, millions and millions of hard-earned US dollars that he raised through his exploits on the track to bring glory to Jamaica. What can go so? What can go so? Well, I'm here to tell you that when we form government, no stone will be left unturned to chase down that money for Mr. Bolt and the other.
Those utterances by Mark Golding was rejected by the Jamaica Labour Party. And the JLP is also saying that the SSL saga began under the PNP.
Denouncing and condemning PNP President Mark Golding for again showing his willingness to mislead and make false statements in his desperation for political power. While on the political platform recently and during the passage of just a few seconds, Mark Golding made 3 false, manipulative and disingenuous statements about the Stocks and Securities Limited issue, the SSL matter. Golding stated, and I quote, There was a massive fraud going on in there when Nigel Clark was the Minister of Finance, end quote. In making that statement, the PNP president appeared to pretend to ignore confirmation from local authorities and word from a confessed fraudster who is now before the courts that fraud at SSL was going on from as far back as 2012 when the PNP was in office. Golding also ignored a known fact that the Financial Services Commission, the FSC, had expressed concern about governance at the entity from as far back as 2013 when the PNP administration, of which he, Mark Golding, was a member, was in office. Golding also ignored media reports which quoted relevant documents as revealing that shortly after our sprint legend Usain Bolt sent his principal investment to SSL in 2012, it was fleeced. In another vile, reckless, and misleading comment, Mark Golding stated, and I quote, "The Prime Minister had his money in there and take it out before it collapsed," end quote. That, of course, is patently false. The Prime Minister had invested in a bond at SSL from as far back as 2008, which matured in 2021. As a commercial lawyer, Mark Golding knows that when bonds mature, they are often liquidated as a natural course of action. Yet he sought to mislead his audience into believing that Prime Minister Holness took preemptive action somehow ahead of the collapse of SSL. That is nothing but a cheap tactic by Mark Golding, who, in a new law, has resorted to peddling via the political platform false information and, of course, is spreading so via PNP bloggers and vloggers on social media. In a third distasteful and misleading comment, Mark Golding remarked, and I quote yet again, "It pains my heart what the government is doing to the great Usain Bolt," end quote. The fact is, the government of Jamaica has taken unprecedented action in leaving no stone unturned in a bid to secure justice for all investors in SSL, including, of course, our sporting icon Usain Bolt. Golding made his comments despite knowing that the government hired a leading international forensic auditing firm to assist in the probe. No political administration in Jamaica has before sought international assistance to probe a case of local fraud. The case is now before the criminal court, with one person being charged so far. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Financial Investigations Division, FID, are in dialogue as they work toward a determination as to whether there are legal grounds to take additional action against any person or persons in this matter. There are also cases before the civil court. Mark Golding knows it is unlawful for the government of Jamaica to interfere in processes being embarked upon by our law enforcement agencies, the prosecutorial arm of the state, and our judiciary, which also have a role to play in making a determination regarding restitution to people affected by fraud. Yet he, Mark Golding, sought to use a political platform to exploit the name of one of Jamaica's greatest sons by pushing and fueling a false narrative in a clear and desperate effort to score cheap political points. Given the tone set by their president, Mark Golding, it is no surprise that PNP surrogates, including bloggers and vloggers, have found themselves in legal trouble for telling lies about SSL and suggesting that government officials had a hand to play in fleecing investors. This is a bold and barefaced falsehood being spread by Mark Golding and the PNP, which clearly have no plans to move Jamaica forward and has therefore resorted to peddling deception, falsehoods in a bid to mislead and trick the Jamaican people into giving them political power. They must be denounced and rejected in no uncertain terms.
Golding, Julian Robinson, and the PNP have been attempting to mislead the people of Jamaica into believing that the former PNP government took any effective or decisive action to safeguard Jamaican investors when egregious issues were brought to its attention concerning the operations of SSL in 2012-2013. The fact is, no decisive or effective action was taken to safeguard the interest of the Jamaican investors, and no twisting or turning from Golding, Robinson, or the PNP will hide that fact. Even as we hope that every single Jamaican who is affected by impropriety at SSL is made whole, what I find unfortunate as well about the entire narrative is the move by the PNP to bring the name of the iconic Usain Bolt onto the political platform in a bid to mislead Jamaica and the icon into not recalling public record, which indicate that the majority of his principal investment, 86% of it, was fleeced when they were in office and at a time when they were made aware of issues at SSL but did not take any decisive action to safeguard the Jamaican investor. Usain, who has given a lot to Jamaica, and not once in doing our country proud did he depend on politics. I believe he deserves better than his name being exploited by desperate opposition politicians who are clearly hungry for political power, so much so they are willing to say anything and use anybody's name to achieve that end.
Let's hear from Mr. Gordon, the attorney for Usain Bolt.
Okay, the matter is being investigated, and one person has been charged. That person could be described as a low-level employee or officer of the entity. It is more than curious that nobody else has been charged, and how can it be that not only Mr. Bolt's money, but all the other persons, including several senior citizens, their monies disappear from this entity, and nobody is being called upon. The officers, the senior persons who would have to transfer those funds. Because bear in mind that Mr. Bolt's funds were not taken in a basket or a scandal bag and put on a counter or put on the floor. It was bank transfer. It was transferred from a financial institution to SSL. So how did it leave SSL without a trace? It's not someone took up a bag of money and walk out. Checks and bank transfers were done to move this money. Why this can't be found? What has happened? What has happened to the computers that disappear mysteriously? Why are we not having fulsome disclosure of the investigation of this matter? And why nobody else is even being interrogated that we know of? Well, let's deal with that. Who has the record, the information that the money was stolen and was not sent to SSL? Who has that information? And why not take it to the police and identify the person who stole the money? Why? Why this big red herring without a head nor a tail? Why? Well, let me tell you, Mr. Bolt's money was sent to SSL by bank transfers. The investigations conducted by Mr. Ken Tomlinson, who was put in charge by the FSC, his records confirm that Mr. Bolt's money was sent there. The persons who are saying it was stolen, which started at a certain media house, has not presented one bit of evidence to say it was stolen on the 10th of March and the amount stolen was $5 or $6. A red herring has been thrown across the path, and the question is, what's the motive for doing that?
Hot, hot, hot again on the political scene. I'm Dudley Thompson, and again, please like, share, and subscribe. And as usual, thanks for watching.